Okay, so today we will understand API in RAG. API in RAG. RAG we know that is Retrieval Augmented Generation. Okay, first we will understand what is API in RAG. What is API in RAG? Okay, API in RAG is a bridge. So let's say here is a rag. Let me search if I get anything. Okay, fine. So I will just, there is an AI model. That model could be LLM. Let's say this is the AI model. Okay, this AI model, and we have some, plus we have some external, I would say, knowledge sources. Here I will mention external sources. External sources that could be like DB, DB or documents, documents. Like these are the external sources. So what they are doing, it is they're creating a kind of bridge. This is bridge. How they are connected, that is connected through API. We have understood clearly now this. Because this API called as at API, this bridge equal API, because API helping RAG, this is equal to RAG, rag augmented generation, retrieval augmented generation. Retrieval means from external sources, generation means they are using a model, and how they are connected through API. So this API is actually fetching this real data. This real data is being fetched with API, fetched by APIs. Okay, because they are not relying on the trained knowledge, and this is just a trained knowledge. This is trained knowledge, and this is real data. And if we have to understand in DevOps um, style, that would be like in CI/CD pipeline, there is a trigger, right? Like when code is being pushed, if we understand it, let's say Git, Git is there, right? So there will be commit, commit, or I call it as commit. commit, right? Or maybe there could be a push. So that is a trigger. This trigger, upon this trigger, what CI/CD do? This is CI/CD, right? Pipeline, pipeline. So this CI/CD pipeline, this is trigger. So when there is a push or there is a commit, right? This push or commit to the CI/CD, right? There is a push or there is a commit to GitHub, then it triggers a CI/CD pipeline. So how it is triggering? We have to understand it with API. So this is an API. This API is actually triggering the CI/CD. When there is any commit or there is any push, then there is a trigger to CI/CD pipeline. So it is being done with the API. Okay. And if we understand in MLOps style, so think of API like we have chatbots, right? Chatbot. So this is a chatbot, this chatbot. So this chatbot calls an API. This calling an API. And that API, this API is fetching the real data, fetching from vector DB, from DB, right? Or we can say vector DB, vector DB. What is vector DB? Vector DB is bases on similarity it fetches from the database. So it is fetching the data from this vector DB, this API, and then this chatbot is serving. This is MLOps. Now we have understood what is API, right? In these systems like RAG systems, what is API? Now, why do we need API in these RAG systems? Because in simple word, we can understand because LLM don't know your private or latest data, right? So if I take an LLM, they don't know our private data, private data or latest data, right? Like like this is GPT model, right? Model. And with the help of API, what happens? API makes AI smart by giving it updated and private information. Now what happens? This is getting smarter. How it is getting smarter? Smarter through API. Because API is giving the what it is giving? It is giving the private data. This API is giving private data. Private data. Okay. This is like why we are using API. We have understood because we need to give private data to these LLMs. And if we have to understand in DevOps, like how we can relate it to DevOps, that is in DevOps. So you have um, how you can relate it. You can relate it like we have parameters stored, right? Let me search parameter, parameter store. AWS array. Okay, we don't have the parameter store, so I'll just write it here. Parameter store. We know this is an AWS service, right? Oh no. Okay. This AWS service, right? So this parameter store, what it is, what it does, it stores configurations, right? So instead of hard coding, what we do, we get latest secret. With this, we are getting latest secrets. We are getting latest secret. How we are getting? Through API. So API is a kind of bridge, right? So with the help of API, we are fetching the latest secret. Otherwise, what we used to do in DevOps, what we used to do, we used to hard code the configurations, right? So this hard coding way is like without API, we can say, because here we are not using any API. We have just hard coded, right? But instead of that, we are not hard coding it now. So if I search here cross wrong, no, okay. So I'll just make it like this here. So we are not using this, right? Now, this we have understood in DevOps. Now we can also understand it in machine learning operations. Like model gives a generic answer without API. Um, so let's say we are using this LLM. This will give, no, no, no. This will give a general answer, but with API. If I take here, if I'm using the same here with what? With API. API. That is DB. So how this is giving accurate answers, right? This we have understood in machine learning operations. Now, how API works in RAG systems. Okay, so first a user asks a question. There is a user. This user is asking a question. Asking a question. Asking some questions. And then there would be an API. API means we have understood, like we have external sources. So it will fetch data from external sources, which we have configured. And then this data is sent to LLM. Like this data is sent to this model, GPT model. And then this LLM is generating this is now generating an answer. Generate answers, right? So this is like how API is being used. So API is retrieving the context. This we can give it as a context. Context is given by API. And that's how it is answering back to user. Then, and like in Kubernetes also, we pull container image, right? So Kubernetes, no, no, no. So this Kubernetes, it's pull an image, right? It's pull an image. This is pulling an image. It's pulling an image, right? So this image is pulled before running container. Before a container pops up, now this container is running, right? So we have understood it, how it is working. It is calling an API. Okay. And or there is a flow we can understand. Let's say this is a user, this user goes to API, then this API talks to vector DB, and then this vector DB, because it needs to take context, right? So this will take context from where? From DB. And vector DB means it will give some relevant data. It will give some relevant data. And then this data will goes to LLM. And in LLM, let's say we are using that OpenAI GPT model. And now this LLM is generating an answer. Okay, so this is how it works in machine learning. Okay, now we'll understand where do we need API in RAG systems. So that is like anywhere we can have a need for real time or private knowledge. Whenever there is any real time or private. Whenever we need real time or private knowledge, knowledge, we need API. That is like a need for API. There is a need for API. And we use it in chatbots, we use it in search engines, we use it in internal tools where it is being used. So let's say we have chatbots, we use in chatbots, we use in search engines, and we also use it in internal tools, right? So this is where we are using APIs. And we are using API in DevOps tool also. So I'm just we already know. So let me just search for Jenkins. This is Jenkins, right? So this Jenkins talk to GitHub, GitHub Copilot. This talks to GitHub. How this is talking? Jenkins is talking to GitHub through API. Understood? And in the similar way, we can relate it with Terraform also, because Terraform is creating infra, and this is creating infra over AWS, right? This AWS. So how this is creating? Through API. Now we will not forget, right? That is the a kind of uh, relation we can understand. And real use case, like we have customer support chatbots on AWS, you will be able to see there is a chatbot, right? Or in internal company, you will see there is chatbots which are specific to the company. Or if you search a document, right? You are using the search option. So that search option is also using an API. You've understood? Now we want to understand, when do we use API in RAG systems? So when we need updated data, right? So when we are using updated, or you can say custom data, not fixed, custom data, we use API, APIs, right? And we use API when training data is not enough, right? Why we need updated data? Because training data is not enough. Because training data is not enough. It's not enough. Then we are using API, right? In DevOps, like we don't rebuild app every time, right? We just fetch configs dynamically. Like when we are building app. So what we do, we fetch configs dynamically, right? Dynamically by API. So that's how we are building app. We don't rebuild, right? We just fetch the configs dynamically. Like if you'll understand, like financial data changes every day. We use API or monitoring log monitoring system also fetches log via API, right? So let's say we have some financial, yeah, this is finance. So data keeps on changing, right? So this data keeps on changing every day. So it uses API. And similar way, we have some monitoring systems. We have monitoring, log monitoring, log monitoring. Hmm. Log monitoring. This is logging, right? So this logging, because logs are also keeps on changing. So these system also fetch data with API only, with the API. So let me mark it as um, financial financial data, and this is log data. Log data. Because these are changing every day. So how they are being used. So they have APIs to fetch data. So if we are using RAG, this RAG system, plus we are using API, then we are making smart AI with real-time brain, right? So this is converting into smart AI. And this is like with real-time brain, real-time brain. It is not using trained brain, it is using real-time because it is fetching data from sources like vector DB. So API is the data fetching engine. Yeah, we can say, right? In DevOps, if we understand, so we have a static infra, like if we'll understand with infra. So nowadays, what we are doing, this is AWS infra. Mhm. These infra. So this infra, if it is static, that means without API we are using. And if we are using with API, that is like dynamic or auto updating infrastructure. There could be two, static, static or dynamic, dynamic. Static without API, and dynamic with API, right? Now we have understood this part properly. This we have understood, right? So this is all about API in RAG systems. Okay.